Attention YouTube reviewer, the following video is filmed on a private gun range by a firearms expert. All firearms are handled responsibly and at no point are any bystanders present or ever at risk. The following video also contains no footage of full auto firearms, bump stocks, firearm modifications, or firearm ammunition cells as defined by YouTube's community guidelines. This includes our outro. In addition, the content in this video based around restoring and repairing this rifle has been cleared as fully monetizable by YouTube. Welcome back, guys. Today we're on part 3 of our restoration project on this Mannlicher rifle that was sent to us by RTI, Rural Tiger Imports. So today's gonna be a real basic video. I'm going to be pretty much scrubbing and sanding the living heck out of all these parts to remove all the cosmoline and rust the best I can. To be doing that, I'm going to be using Purple Power. You can get this at O'Reilly's. I've got a assortment of brushes and toothbrushes, boar brushes, steel wool, sandpaper, some cleaning Q-tips, gloves, rags, and of course my trusty Milwaukee drill. The reason the drill is here is for the bore of the barrel itself, in which I'm going to be, before long, I'm going to be taking a wire brush like this and just running it up and down with the drill a bunch of times to remove everything out of there. But before I get into all that stuff, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump some Purple Power in there, and then I'm going to pour a pot of boiling water in here and really let it kind of, cook everything down and kind of break everything up for a little while until it cools down enough for me to touch. I am going to be using gloves because, one, my hands are going to be in here for a very long time. I don't know what all types of cosmoline and whatnot are in here. I don't want to irritate my hands, get my hands pruny, and then Corpus water has a habit of making my hands itch after it's been in there for too long. So I'm going to be using gloves. That's going to be it. The reason I'm not doing the stock update this video and I'm doing this instead is because of this tub itself. This tub I got here, I had to order on Amazon. It cost me like 40 bucks. It was the only one I could find that was long enough to fit the whole barrel action in here, and it may be the whole stock. But the reason I'm doing this first is because this is a food grade tub. I can't remember what type of plastic it is, but it can handle degreasers, but I don't know if it's going to be able to handle the mineral spirits that I'm going to have to use for the stock to remove the oils and stuff out of that when I pull it out of the bag out of the truck. So I'm doing that last just in case this container can't handle that stuff. I got this part out of the way. The other reason I'm not doing the stock is because the stock, when I do that, I have to be out in the garage because of the fumes and stuff like that. I don't want it stinking up my gun room. I don't want it stinking up the house. So it's going to be out in the garage when we do that, which means heat and stuff like that. So now I would have loved to gotten an ultrasonic cleaner for these parts, for a lot of these smaller parts. However, I haven't invested in one just yet, and I'm waiting until I can really get a good sized one that I can put bigger parts in, instead of spending 60 bucks buying a little tiny one like this at Harbor Freight and then only being able to do the small parts. So that's why I'm doing this by hand. But this is the same method that I've used for all my parts kits as far as cleaning up and degreasing. I used it on the PPSH, I used it on the DP27, I used it on the FAL, I used it on the SEPMI. So this is what I'm doing now, is my proven technique. So that's when we get to it. Before we get into it though, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, and that is going to be Rural Tiger Imports. They were gracious enough to supply me with this rifle for this series, and they're working with me on this series right here, and hopefully, with my fingers crossed, I'll be able to work with them in the future as well. So please check out their website. They got all kinds of great collectibles and antiques. as well as some PoE type things as well. And they also just got in a shipment of FAL parts. It's a mixed bag from what I understand. I think they do have some complete rifles as well. I'm not 100%. I haven't checked the website in a good minute. So check them out. Link and everything's right here. And support them, the people who support us. So let's get into it. Alright, so as you can see, I've got the purple power and the boiling water in here. It is already eating up quite a bit of stuff. You saw when I actually added in the boiling water, just a few minutes of sitting had already removed a lot of the cosmoline, and a lot of the stuff's already breaking up. So I just gotta wait a few minutes for this to get cool enough for me to actually get my hands in here and start scrubbing and stuff like that. So here in just a few minutes, once it's cool enough for me to do that without scalding my hands, we'll actually get started. Stop recording. So it might be a little hard to see, but if you can see right now, a lot of this stuff is already coming off pretty easy inside of this solution. I mean, obviously some of this heavier cake stuff and the rust, it's going to take a little bit more work to get off, but a lot of this is already coming off pretty easy. So basically what I'm going to do, oh, that's a little spicy, is I'm going to start off probably with the toothbrushes and start working off the lighter stuff. Then I'll probably get down to the bronze brush for the harder stuff. And then whatever doesn't come off with this, then I'm going to start with the sandpaper. And I have 3 different grits of sandpaper in 1 set of Steyr wool. So I've got, starting out here, let's see, what is it here? What we got? We got 320, 220. So we'll start with the 220 on the places that really need it, which is most likely going to be the mag well and the barrel, some of that stuff there. We'll start with the 220, then go to the 320, then we'll finish up the sandpaper with 600 grits. And then when we're really done and ready for getting, polishing up, we've got this Quad Zero Steyr wool, which is the finest stuff I can find locally in my bit of search, and then we'll get that polished up. Now, I do have a handful of guns I've refinished in this manner. For instance, my Polish P64 macro, y'all may remember this from way back in the day. I completely polished and refinished this gun and cold blued it myself as well, because when I got it, it was in pretty rough shape. Now that was back before I started my channel, so I didn't film that. But this is, I'm pretty sure some of this I've maybe filmed cold bluing and whatnot. If not, well, guess what? You're gonna get to see this video. Well, maybe not this specific video, but in this series. Alright, this is cool enough for me to touch. Let's get into it. Like I said before, I'm gonna start first with a toothbrush. This one here has got some pretty sturdy bristles. So we're gonna start with the bolt carrier here. And just gonna give it a little scrubby scrub. You can see just from sitting how much of the cosmoline has been eaten up. See, some of this harder stuff here is going to be a bit more challenging to get. Let's go straight to the brass brush and see how that's going to work. Now remember, most of these parts, probably all of these parts, I haven't gone through and really matched up serial numbers yet, but most of these parts are well over 100 years old, and some of this cosmoline has been on here for a very, 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 very long time. And you see some of this is going to have to be sanded off simply because of how caked on it is and how it's gone into the metal. Let's see over here. Now these bolt carriers, I don't know exactly what they're made out of, but most of them seem to be some type of stainless steel or largely nickel or some kind of rust resistant material. And I've always wondered why it was in old military firearms, why the bolt carrier, and most of the parts were made out of some type of stainless steel or a steel that would be, you know, relatively superior to what was mainly used on the rest of the gun at the time, and why they wouldn't just use it on the entire gun. And you know, I mean, the simple answer is it's price. It always comes down to price, especially when we're talking about military firearms, stuff like that. Whatever variety of metal this is, I guarantee it would cost a lot more than just the regular, you know, steel that is used on the rest of the firearms. Okay, I'm going to grab me a piece of sandpaper here. Gonna just kind of dry my hands a little bit. We're going to start. Let's start with the 320 here. I'm just gonna tear off a little cube here, a square. The reason why I'm going to this here because we're gonna, on the bolt, we're just gonna, on the bolt handle like so, we're just gonna kind of roll it around, the rinsey rinse. Now it does look like this part here was stainless and then this part might have been blued. Now in my experience, these bolt carriers and bolt handles, stuff like that, generally don't blue very well. Something about the type of steel that they have in there just doesn't blue very well. So chances are I'm not going to blue this piece. It's probably going to be somewhat polished. And I do want to kind of leave some of the pitting and stuff like that because I want to show the rifle's age. But I have decided I am going to be doing a more or less full restoration on this gun. So I'm gonna try to make it look as nice as presentable as possible. I want it to be a nice looking rifle, you know, something real pretty to look at. These rifles have a lot of history. They're historically important as far as military arms go. And you know, yeah. So I'm gonna keep busting away on this here, sanding it down, getting it cleaned up a little bit, and then when I'm done, I'll get back to y'all. So as you can see here, one of the tricky parts with some of these more complex components like this here is always going to be the corners and the ends. So what I do is I kind of fold it up and I use the tip of my finger and my fingernail to get into these little corners like this. And you just got to do short little strokes when you get to the end so you don't, you know, run over the side of it. Now, I could polish this thing to be mirror finish, but I'm not going to do that. Because I don't want it, like I said, I want this to still look its age, but I want it to look nice. So I'm not going to sand out all of the pitting and stuff. I'm only going to sand out, polish it, remove some of the scuffs and scratches, because if you can look here on the receiver here, it's been sanded already. And this may have been done by Royal Tiger themselves in order to reveal the numbers and stuff. I don't know specifically. I would assume that is the case. But as you can see, it's starting to clean up pretty nice here. It's not super perfect. Like I said, I don't want to polish this thing to a mirror finish and remove all of the pitting and stuff like that. I want this thing just to be nice enough to where it looks nice, but if you really inspect it, you can see its age. Now, one thing that I am slightly concerned about here on the carrier is, first of all, I'm looking, it does not appear to be a serialized part anywhere, which is good, although it does have a stamping there. But I'm looking at this piece right here, which this is the sear surface for the firing pin, I believe. One of the caulking surfaces or something like that, the sear. And it is a little chewed up, so once again, I have not had a chance to fire this rifle, obviously. So I'm not sure how that's going to really affect it. But we'll have to find out and see. So one of the harder places to sand on a shape like this is going to be the handle itself. And basically what I do is I just take my piece of sandpaper, get it on the round piece here, and just make sure I got it set to where it's not really snagging up on anything, and just do that right there. And it's not the greatest, but it does work pretty good. You can see here I've almost got the bolt sanded up to where I want it, and then I'm going to hit it with one pass of the 600 grit to kind of really smooth it out, polish it out a little bit. And then from there I can dry it off. I'll probably run the drill and the brush down inside of it just to clean out the insides a little bit. And then right in there is going to be a little tricky, but I'll try to see what I can do for that. But this is almost done as far as that. Now when you do it like this, it does take a very long time to do this. It does a lot of elbow grease. It all depends on, you know, how well you want to get this. With a rifle like this, you could literally drop all this stuff inside of a sonic cleaner, get it about mostly to where you want as far as cleaned up, and then just take care of the rust. But you really do have to take the attention with the actual receiver in the barrel, because that is very important as far as getting that nice and clean and smooth out, especially if you're looking for a smooth running rifle. Alright, so alright, I'm gonna get me a piece of 600 and then polish that up right there, and then I'll let you know when I'm done. Alright, well, that's the bolt carrier. That's about what I'm gonna do with it. I got it cleaned out. I hit it with 1,000 with that wool, and I'm pretty happy with it. It's not 100% perfect looking, but I don't want it to be 100% perfect looking. If I really wanted this thing to be, you know, brand new looking, I could do it, but I don't want it to look brand new. I want it to still show some of its age. So the steel wool actually works pretty good, so I'm gonna see what it does just off the bat right here on the this barrel. Yeah, I'll have to start with the sandpaper on this first, but it did pretty good, so I'm gonna go ahead and okay, let's do the barrel. Let's go ahead and get this all polished up, sanded up. I'm going to start with we'll start with the 220 here. A little rough, but there is a lot of this stuff that is pretty caked on, so I'm going to start with just a little square of the 220. We're going to tilt it up like this, and we're going to start on the barrel. And we're just going to go up and down like this here. I'm sure a lot of you guys will remember this motion from when you were a teenager and you didn't talk to girls yet. So you just want to go up and down on it and rotate slowly. We're trying to get everywhere on here. We're trying to remove the rust and the bluing as well, but we're not trying to really scuff it up a ton. Do that there. Let's rinse it off. Let's see, just that little bit of time there did get quite a bit of it off. So we can see spots where it's gonna need a little bit more attention. And spots like that, we can hit just that spot a little bit harder to get it going. Get those spots removed like that. And then there's still going to be some pitting, which is fine. Because like I said, I don't want to remove all the pitting off of the gun. I want you to still be able to tell its age. But I am aiming to make this thing look gorgeous. So it is getting re-blued, cold blued. So it's going to have a nice shiny cold blue on it. And yeah. Okay, let's do one more rinse. See where we're at. Yeah, see some of those dips, some of those in there are pretty deep in there. So let me see if the wool will squeeze down in there, get inside. No, but that's fine. The cold blue will kill a lot of that rust off. Now, some of the harder areas are going to be down here and up here. But I'm going to get this polished up, and then when we're ready to do the bore, I'll get back to you. Alright guys, well, I got the barrel and receiver polished up or sanded down to about where I want it to. The hardest place that I had trouble with was obviously inside the channels, in this little section right here, because it was hard for me to twist on it, and then of course up here by the muzzle and stuff. So now we're going to see what we can do for the bore itself, because the bore isn't great looking, but until I polish it up, we don't know. So I'm going to slide this way. There's a little gnat or something over here. And I've got my drill with this on it, so we're going to just kind of set it here. Just work our way down, nice and slow. Okay, and that's dirty as all get out. So let's set that there. Let's rinse out the barrel. Let's see what we got going on here. Now you can see just from the receiver and the bolt itself, oh, that has got one big nasty pit in there. Rifling isn't all that great. You can see how dark the water is. Ooh, yeah, you can see how much dirt just came off just that. How dark the water is here from just from this. Now, I do have a alternative I would like to do with this barrel. If this barrel ends up being totally trashed and unusable, I might have this barrel removed and sent off, and I'm going to have another barrel made, but the new barrel will be in 7.62 by 54R. That is because the rim diameter and everything like that is very similar, and the pressures and everything are very similar as well. They will run in this gun. The only issue is when you run a 7.62 by 54R in this gun, because it's an 8mm bore, the bullet itself isn't going to stabilize. It's going to bounce around the barrel. It's not, it's not going to be accurate, but it will fire. If you have a barrel that is chambered for 7.62 by 54R and bored for 7.62, then it will run in this rifle. And if this ends up being a totally trashed barrel, which I'm not too, I don't know, it looks like it might be trashed, that might be the route I go. But let's just polish it up some more and then just hope for the best, I guess. See how dirty that is. Ooh. Black. All kinds of nasty dripping off of that. Oh, I'm gonna have to wash my table after this project. Let's rinse it out some more and see where we're at. Well, I mean, yeah, this thing's probably not gonna be very accurate. Yeah, there's some pretty nasty pitting in there. When I go to put this all back together and whatnot, I'll try to show you. I'm not sure it's gonna show up on camera right now. Let me see if I can. Let's see if maybe y'all can see it right now. I'm gonna turn this tub over the bolt. Put the bolt over here. Let me turn this tub sideways. I really do not want to spill this crap in here. You can see it's dripping. But let's see if y'all can see down in there. No, it doesn't look like it. I'll have to take a picture of my phone or something like that to really show how bad the bore is. It is not ideal, to be honest. I thought it looked fairly solid when it was dirty. But now looking at it in there, not very promising. But otherwise than that, the barrel action is about done. So I'm gonna wipe it down, set it off here, run a patch through the bore so it can be dry, and then we will start on the next part. So, okay, I know it's kind of hard to see, but here's how we got the receiver, and you can see. Nice and smooth. So we're gonna set this off to the side and grab the next part. Alright, so next part we're going to grab, I'm gonna put on a new set of gloves real fast first. But the next part we're gonna grab the magazine well and trigger housing. And we're gonna start scrubbing that thing. The reason I'm doing that next, it's the next largest part for the rifle. That's going to be the easiest to do. A lot of these smaller parts I don't need to sand. I just need to clean very well. A lot of them are made out of that same almost stainless steel material that the bolt carrier is made out of. So I don't have to really scrub and sand on those. It's really the exterior parts, the band, stuff like that, that I'm going to really put the the hurt on as far as scrubbing and stuff like that. The bolt here, I'll get to in a minute, but where's it at? This is the next part that I really want to get. You can see it's pretty rusty. Our bronze brush does a decent job on it, but it really needs the sandpaper. So I'm gonna have to grab another piece of the 320 grit, or the 220, which is, yeah, just 220. Rip this off here, fold it in half, and let's just take a quick gander here to see what it looks like once we get this much done on it. And grab the steel wool. Yeah. Now the tip is, if you really want to keep if you wanted to do this kind of level of restoration where you're going to be re-bluing and everything, but you want it to still show its age, if you look and see, you can see where it still has some of the old cold bluing. You can leave some of that old cold bluing in there, or the old rust bluing, or whatever type of bluing that they use. You can leave some of that on there, and that's going to create darker spots when you blue it. And it's going to just make it look more aged. Yeah, so you see some of this darker stuff here, I may not try to get that off. I may leave that. That way when I cold blue this, it's going to leave darker spots, and it's just going to look like it's older and more aged as opposed to a brand new polished, rifle. Which I want. I want this thing to look really nice and polished and freshly blued, but I still want it to show its age. So that's why I'm leaving a lot of the pitting. I'm not trying to get a lot of the pitting out, and I'm not trying to get rid of 100% all of the bluing on parts of the rifle. I want it to still look like it's 120, 30 something years old. I'm not exactly sure how specifically old this particular rifle is. I haven't had a chance to do much research on like the serial number and stuff like that. I'm not sure that the serial numbers for these were tracked for age. So you don't really know. But naturally, the places where it's going to wear the least are going to be spots near corners, edges, stuff like this. So if you're really trying to go with a real natural aged look, spots like that you're going to want to not sand as heavily, because that's going to give it a more natural look, because it's naturally where it's going to wear more. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get this thing sanded down, polished up, and then I'll get back to y'all when I'm done. Alright, so here is the magwell and trigger guard completely done up. You see it looks pretty good. I'm going to do a little test, and we're going to see what this is going to look like blued. I'm going to be using this Birchwood Casey Perma Blue. Normally I use the Brown Ales Oxbow Blue. I've never used this stuff before, so I'm going to give it a little try, and we're going to see how it is. I'm going to put on a fresh pair of gloves. I'm going to get my paper towels ready. Now I rinsed this off. Now for a little bit of a tip when you're doing gun parts and you're doing cold blue, first of all, when you rinse off the metal parts, use as hot as water as your hands can physically bear. This is going to help dry the parts faster and leave less droplets of water inside of tight spaces. And then also, if it's still warm, it is going to help the blue work its way inside of the metal a little bit more. Now I'm just gonna swipe this stuff on here, and we're gonna just take a piece of paper towel here, bunch it up, and let's just rub her on in and see how it looks. Now if you have a heat gun, you can also use a heat gun to heat up the metal before you cold blue, and that will also help as well. And see what it does is it actually helps open up the metal matrix, the crystal matrix of the metal itself, the steel, and it allows the blue to penetrate deeper into it. Now this stuff here comes out pretty dark. So I think this is going to look pretty good. And I do recommend using gloves. I don't know how toxic this stuff is, but I do know it will stain your hands blue. I have done it multiple times, more times than I'd like to admit to, dyeing my hands blue with, cold blue and stuff like that. But also, to help keep the oil from your hands off of the metal parts itself, as that will affect how well the blue sticks to the metal parts. So I'm gonna finish this up and then go rinse it off, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like when it's completely done. So I'll see y'all in a minute. Alright, it's hard to see, but that's how it came out. Looks pretty solid, to be honest. Not bad. A little bit of the shiny blue on there, but pretty good, you know. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab the barreled action, and I'm going to go ahead and blue it right now. See, now it's freshly polished up. I don't want any more rust to form, so I'm going to blue it. That way I can oil it up. So after you blue all the parts, you oil them to keep to allow the oil to soak in and to stop any more oxidation from happening. You can see it's still pretty rusty inside of there, even though I scrubbed it the best I could and I blued inside of it. So I'm going to probably oil the living crap out of that here in a second after I do the barrel. So I'll check back with y'all in a minute. Alright, so I'm going to dry my hands, make sure there's no water on my hands, because any water drops moisture can affect the bluing. And I've got my piece of blue paper towel right here. I'm going to go ahead and just run some cold blue down here, and we're just going to rub and rotate, rub and rotate. And you want to try to do as even coat as possible on it so you don't end up with spots that are darker than others, but you can always add more cold blue in order to darken it up some more. That's actually darkening it up real nice so far. Let's add some more to this side. I have to be honest, I'm really liking this Birchwood Casey Perma Blue. This stuff is working really well. It darkens really fast. It is pretty dark on the dark side as well. The Brownells does tend to be a little bit lighter of a blue. And it also depends on the steel as well, how well it takes the blue, but this stuff is taking the blue pretty well. Anywhere you see some light spots, just make sure you get it on there. Now remember, on this particular rifle, some of this barrel, a lot of the barrel is going to be hidden by wood, so, you know, take that as you will. You know, not everywhere you're bluing, you're working with is going to be visible to begin with. But that is actually looking quite nice. Now you're going to use a Q-tip on some of these smaller spots, like here around the sight and stuff like that, to get into little crevices and whatnot. But I think we'll probably be fine here. But okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and get this completely blued, and then I will show y'all once I get it all blued and cleaned up and rinsed off. And same thing when you rinse off after you blue, use the hottest water you can physically, you know, stand with your hands, because that's gonna allow it to dry much faster, because it's literally going to be hot and evaporate off the water from the metal itself. And it helps evaporate it out of all the little crevices and stuff like that, and helps prevent any rusting. And then it also will help, like I said, make that blue sink a little bit deeper into the metal as well. So we're gonna get this all taken care of, and I'll check back with you when I'm done bluing this barrel action. Alrighty, so that is now blued. Came out pretty good. Like I said, you can still see the age on it, but now you can clearly see Steyr M95. You can see the serial number there. You can see World Tiger's little import marks there, which are nicely hidden. It came out pretty good. So let me show you. A little while ago, you saw with a bolt in it. Now, and you saw the metals were about the same. So now you can really see the difference in the colors in the metal. So, all right. Set this here, set this here. That's great. So now that's out of the way. Got this trigger guard, that's blued as well. Now really all that's left that I really need to put a lot of work into are going to be the swivels and bands and then the butt plate. And that's really it. A lot of the other parts I just need to clean up really good. Now, I know some people might be wondering or concerned about when I had the springs in here a little while ago when I poured in the boiling water. Boiling water is nowhere near hot enough to affect spring tension in any way. You need to get hundreds and hundreds of degrees before you can start really messing with spring temper. So the boiling water I dumped in here originally, just fine. But yeah, so I got this up. I'm going to pull up the next part and we're going to see where I go from there. I may do some more filming here and there, but I'll check it in a minute. Alright guys, so I went ahead and I took a break overnight and let this stuff keep soaking, and you can see this water is nasty. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep going because like I said, I've only got a couple more parts that I need to actually get polished up, that way I can blue them. And I think that's the rear barrel band, and I think a couple other things. So I just got to do that, and then the rest of the parts I'm literally just cleaning up and getting cosmeline off. And I may re-blue some parts. It depends. It's gonna be a part by part type situation because I have to see which parts need extra attention and which parts I can just clean up. So let's get back into this here. Now, when you do a project like this, if you're doing it all the way through, completely restoring the rifle like I'm doing on this one here, it is a process. It takes time, especially if you're wanting to re-blue the parts properly or nicely. Now, there is a trick you can do with some of these parts if you don't have a sonic cleaner. Like some of these other smaller parts and stuff like that, you can put them in distilled white vinegar and let the vinegar eat off the rust. There's also electrolysis where you can place them in a electrolyte solution as I believe it's the positive ground, and then let the electrolysis process remove rust off of it. Problem with those two options, you have to keep an eye on because they can cause the metal to pit. OSFO, you can soak them in OSFO after you degrease them. That can also remove it. Another one you have to keep an eye on because it can cause pitting. So you want all those options. You want it just enough to remove the rust, but not enough to start pitting the metal. But that's why I like doing this one here. Yes, it takes longer, but you are a little bit more safe. You know exactly how much you're taking off, and you can see very carefully you know what you're doing, and you don't have to risk so much about doing too much and accidentally pitting the metal too much or anything like that. Now this one here is going to be tricky here around this band. I will probably have to get the brass brush in here and do it like this. Now, you see I'm doing it under the liquid like this, and it's just to stop the bristles from splashing water on me. I got a bunch of this stuff in my eyes and stuff last night, and to be honest, it's probably fairly safe, but you know, it's still not stuff that you would really want in your eyes, to be honest. There's no telling what stuff could be inside of this cosmoline. You know, it's meant to preserve guns and not meant to really be safe. But it depends on where it was made. Some countries, cosmoline is made mostly of animal fats. And this is true with a lot of Russian firearms. You can get the Russian firearms, and sometimes you'll find animal hair inside of the cosmoline because you don't really have to clean it that great in order to it be usable. So if there's some hair and stuff in there, it's fine. I've even found on some guns before, I've found chunks of meat before. So, you know, it just depends on how they're made, you know, where the country that it came from is, and how that particular country makes their cosmoline. Kind of dictates on how you might have to deal with that kind of stuff. But usually it's mostly animal fats with some oils in there. So, but then again, you know, like I said, this rifle has been in a stack of other rifles like Jenga blocks in Ethiopia for probably, I'm going to say at least, I don't know exactly when they got these, but I'm going to say at least World War II minimum. Like I mentioned in other videos, Ethiopia, they've had a habit of buying surplus guns from people for a long time. That's what was a little messed up. These complicated parts like this are the tricky ones. I might rinse this one off, and I might soak this one inside of vinegar. So what I'll do is I'll show you what it looks like right now. As you can see, it's still pretty rusty, but it's a complex part. So I'm going to go rinse it off. I'm going to soak this in vinegar for while I work on the rest of this stuff, and then we'll check in and see what it's like. So, alright, so like you see, I got this inside of some distilled white vinegar, and I'm just going to set it off to the side, and we're just going to let that do its thing while I work on the other parts here. Distilled white vinegar can take a while. It depends on how old the vinegar is and stuff like that. And it also depends on how degreased you manage to get your parts, because oils and greases can stop the vinegar from properly getting to the rust and stuff. But this has been soaking in this solution of purple powder and water all night, so it should be fairly degreased. So we're gonna sit there and just let that kind of do its thing, and then we'll check in on it in a little while. I'll probably give it a couple hours, but I'm just gonna get to washing, and I'll check on with y'all in a minute. Now, it may be hard to see, but I added a bit of phosphoric acid, OSPO, into my distilled vinegar. To the parts that I'm wanting to chemically clean, and you can see it's working on some of them pretty good. So I'm just going to keep an eye on this and let those clean. Everything else is cleaned up. I'm going to blue the parts that I need to blue, and then I'll check back with you when I'm done with everything else. Alright guys, so I'm all cleaned up everything here. You can see this water is real nasty. I had a odd little event happen. So a lot of these parts, when I was done with them, cleaning them here, I dropped them in a bowl of water. And they were fine, but when I started getting out the OSPO parts and doing the final cleanup here and dropping them in the water, something happened where I guess there was a chemical reaction with a very small amount of vinegar and OSPO in the water, and it actually almost blued some of these parts. So you saw me clean this up, and it was silver like the bolt, and now it's almost blued. So some kind of little chemical reaction happened, nothing too crazy. But anyways, everything's all cleaned up and done. So what I gotta do now is I'm gonna clean up my table here, go dump this water and clean out this tub, and then I gotta oil all the parts down with a little bit of oil, so that way they don't get any surface rust, because they will get rust even after they've been cold blued. So I'm gonna blue them all up, and then after I'm all done with all the parts, got everything cleaned up, I'll show you how everything looks. Alright, well, that is everything. So all these parts are now oiled up and pretty much ready to reassemble, which I'll probably do off screen. Of course, I can't put all this stuff together, and I still got to do the stock. So hope y'all guys enjoyed. Please remember to check out RTI and check out all their awesome collectibles that they have, and all the parts that they can get you if you're looking for stuff. And I'll see y'all on the next video when we do the stock. And hopefully we're going to get that cleaned up and start getting it ready to go. So we're right there in the final stretch. We just got to get that stock together, and we'll be putting this rifle back together, and I'll be tracking down some ammo. So I'll see y'all next time. Y'all have a good one.